The silence in the library at night had a different texture than the silence of day. It wasn't just the absence of voices or the stillness of air. It was a silence that felt ancient, like the marble floor remembered every whisper that had ever echoed between its shelves. Maya had learned to love it. The quiet didn't demand anything from her. It simply allowed her to be. She moved between the towering stacks with practiced precision, her flashlight casting long shadows across the faded spines of books too old to be relevant and too precious to be discarded. Midnight cataloging was lonely, yes, but it was the kind of loneliness she'd chosen. After everything that had happened last year, the unraveling of friendships she thought would last forever, the disappointment of another hollow relationship, the slow erosion of trust, Maya had found comfort in isolation. Books didn't lie. Dust didn't betray. And the night didn't expect her to smile. She was scanning the reference section when she heard it, a soft rustle, like a page turning somewhere it shouldn't be. Her pulse jumped. The library had been empty when she locked the doors. Always was. Slowly, she clicked off her flashlight and let her eyes adjust to the dim emergency lighting overhead. Another rustle. Then a whisper of movement. Maya stepped toward the sound, heart thudding, until she turned the corner near the mythology section and saw her. A woman stood with her back to Maya, lit by a shaft of moonlight filtering through the high, stained glass windows. Her hair fell in loose, shimmering waves down her back, silver like moonlit water. She wore no shoes, and her dress, if it could be called that, clung to her body like sea foam. In her hands, she held an open volume from the rare archives, fingers trailing delicately over its fragile pages. Maya blinked. "The library is closed," she said, her voice too soft to sound authoritative. The woman didn't flinch. Instead, she closed the book gently and turned. Her eyes were unlike anything Maya had ever seen. Pale green and impossibly clear, they caught the light like polished opal, flickering with something wild and unknowable. She smiled, not startled, not apologetic. Just calm. "I know," she said. "But books don't sleep. And neither do I." Maya took a step closer, as if drawn by gravity. "How did you get in?" "Doors open if you know how to ask," the woman replied. "Besides, I'm only here between midnight and sunrise. I never stay long enough to be a problem." Her voice was soft, lilting, with the rhythm of waves against stone. Maya narrowed her eyes, not out of suspicion, but curiosity. "You can't be here," she said again, but the words felt thinner now. The woman smiled, stepping closer. "I'm Coral." Maya blinked. "Like the reef?" "Like what hides in it," Coral replied. There was a moment, suspended in time, where neither spoke. Maya couldn't look away. The scent in the air shifted, subtle, but undeniable. Not perfume. Not cologne. Salt and jasmine and something older. Coral held the book up. "You have a first edition of the Sea Myths of Nereid. I haven't seen this outside of private collections. Did you know this volume references a Greek version of the Selkie legend where transformation isn't tied to a skin, but to time?" "No," Maya admitted. "I didn't." Coral's smile grew. "Then maybe I can teach you something." That night, Maya let her stay. She told herself it was because Coral knew about the books, because she wasn't hurting anything. But as the clock crept closer to dawn, Coral stood abruptly. "I have to go," she said. "Will you be here tomorrow?" Maya asked before she could stop herself. Coral's expression flickered with something unreadable. Hope, maybe, or grief. "If you let me." Then she turned and disappeared into the shadows between the shelves. Maya ran after her, but when she reached the exit, the heavy doors were still locked, and Coral was gone. All that remained was the faint trace of salt in the air, and the echo of something inside Maya she hadn't felt in a long, long time. Wonder. The next night, Maya arrived at the library early, though she would never admit to herself that it was because of Coral. She told herself she simply had more work to do, more old records to clean and sort and digitize, more repairs to check before the city's silent budget cuts removed all hope of preservation. But she moved through her routine with restless energy, glancing over her shoulder whenever the old pipes creaked or the shadows shifted between the tall shelves. Midnight came slowly and all at once. At exactly 12:01, she heard the soft hum of something distant, a low note, like a conch shell pressed against the ear, and then Coral was there, standing by the poetry section as if she'd always belonged there. Maya tried not to look too eager as she approached. "You came back." Coral smiled. "You let me." This time, Maya didn't ask how she got in. The locks had not turned. The alarms had not sounded. And somehow that no longer seemed to matter. Coral carried a copy of an old sea shanty compilation in her arms, cradling it like something precious. She looked at Maya with open curiosity, like Maya was the rare book instead. "You were named after a flower," she said, "but you smell like fire and cinnamon." Maya blinked. "Do I?" "You burn quietly," Coral added. "It's lovely." Maya felt heat creep up her neck, and she busied herself with stacking returns. Coral followed her through the aisles, her footsteps unnaturally light for someone barefoot on old tile. They talked about books, at first. Coral had a memory like no one Maya had ever met. She quoted poems in Greek, translated medieval French, recited entire stanzas from obscure island folk ballads. Her knowledge was uncanny, and her curiosity endless. "How long have you been reading?" Maya asked one night. Coral tilted her head. "How long has the moon been pulling the tides?" Maya laughed, but Coral didn't. That was the first time Maya noticed the slowness in her blinking, the way she sometimes tilted her head as if trying to catch a sound that no one else could hear. There was a stillness to her, like deep water. Beautiful, mysterious, dangerous. But Maya couldn't stay away. She didn't want to. The library, once her haven of solitude, now felt charged. Every night at midnight, Coral would appear. And every night, they grew closer. They shared books, stories, laughter. Coral touched her hand once, briefly, when Maya was shelving a fragile copy of a sailor's diary. It was barely a graze, but Maya felt it for hours afterward. Her fingers tingled, and her dreams that morning were filled with silver waves and lullabies in a language she didn't understand. Days blurred. Maya barely slept. She counted time in nights and silences, in the sound of Coral's voice and the way her eyes softened when Maya smiled. But Coral never stayed past 5 a.m. One moment she was there, and the next, gone like the tide. Maya began to notice things. Small things. A puddle of salt water near the window that no leak could explain. Seaweed tangled in the chair legs. The scent of brine clinging to old paper. And one night, just before Coral vanished, Maya saw her hands flicker, not with light, but with the glint of scales, silver and iridescent, for only a second. "What are you?" Maya whispered. Coral's eyes glistened. "Not tonight," she said. "Ask me when you're ready to hear the answer." Then she was gone. Maya stood alone, heart racing, the silence of the library pressing in around her like the weight of a secret too big to name. She didn't sleep that morning either. All she could think about was the way Coral had looked at her, like Maya was something worth coming back for. Maya couldn't focus during the day anymore. The sun was too loud, the world too solid. She moved through her morning hours in a haze, half dreaming of moonlight on skin and the flicker of silver where fingers should be. Her coworkers asked if she was sleeping enough. She lied. They asked if she was seeing someone. She didn't know how to answer that. Coral wasn't someone she could explain. She existed like music that only played at a certain frequency, too high for others to hear, but now Maya was tuned to her completely. And something inside her knew that Coral's time was borrowed, that whatever magic allowed her to appear each night was fragile. Maya needed to understand. So she searched. Not directly. She didn't want to scare Coral away with accusations, but she pulled every book on oceanic folklore, on sea spirits, selkies, mermaids, cursed lovers. She read about ancient vows and binding spells, about women who transformed under moonlight and lovers who waited on cliffs until they turned to stone. The stories were tragic. Always tragic. One night, she brought a book with her into the restricted reading room. Coral appeared at exactly 12:02. "You look serious tonight," she said, stepping closer. "I've been reading." "That's what you do," Coral replied, amused. "No," Maya said. Reading about you. Coral's smile faded, just slightly. And what have you learned? That there are stories about women with silver hair who vanish at dawn. That some call them sirens. Others, cursed souls. Some fall in love with humans. Some steal their breath. But none of the endings are happy. Coral walked slowly to her, moonlight catching in her eyes. And do you believe in stories? Maya hesitated. I believe in you. For a moment, Coral looked like she might cry. Then maybe I can tell you mine. They sat together on the floor between two old shelves. Coral leaned against Maya's shoulder, and for the first time, Maya felt her weight, not like a ghost, but like a woman. I was born of salt, Coral whispered. Not in the way you were born of blood and skin, but of tide and silence and longing. I have always been two things, the sea that calls and the girl who wishes to stay on land. What changed? A witch. Or maybe a lover. Maybe both. She gave me a gift, a curse. To be human for 5 hours each night, from midnight to dawn, if I stayed far enough from the ocean. To read. To walk. To speak. To remember. And if you stay past dawn? Coral looked away. I don't. Because I can't. What happens? I return to the sea. Not like this. Not gently. I break. Bones bend. Skin tears. It's pain, Maya. And it's necessary. How long has this been happening? Coral closed her eyes. Decades. Centuries. I don't count anymore. I only count moments like this. Maya's hand moved instinctively to Coral's. She held it tightly. There must be a way to stop it. There is, Coral said. But you won't like it. Tell me anyway. It requires love. True love. Willing sacrifice. The person who breaks the curse must give up the life they know to live beneath the waves. And once it's done, they cannot return. Ever. Maya's breath caught. Have you ever asked someone to do it? No, Coral said. Because I never loved anyone enough to ask them. Until now. The silence between them pulsed like a heartbeat. Maya's thoughts swirled. Of family, of the sky, of everything she would leave behind. And yet, all she could see was Coral's face, lit by moonlight, waiting. She didn't know what to say. Not yet. Not tonight, she whispered. Coral smiled sadly. No. Not tonight. They sat in silence. Maya rested her head on Coral's shoulder, letting her heart beat slow, letting her breathing match the rhythm of waves she could not see. When Coral left that night, Maya followed. She waited 2 minutes, then crept through the side exit, her coat clutched tight around her. She expected to see Coral vanish into the shadows of the city. Instead, she watched as Coral walked barefoot toward the canal behind the library, removed her dress like it weighed nothing, and stepped into the water. Her skin shimmered. Her legs dissolved. And where a woman had stood, there was only a silhouette of something powerful and beautiful, silver and scaled, gliding silently into the depths. Maya stared at the water long after it had stilled. Her chest ached, not with fear, but with certainty. Coral was real, and Maya was already far too deep to swim back. Coral didn't come the next night. Maya waited until almost sunrise, pacing the aisles, checking the window where moonlight usually framed her silhouette, sitting in the chair Coral always seemed to favor in the mythology section. The silence felt different without her, hollow, unfinished, like a song missing its final note. She told herself not to panic. Maybe Coral needed time. Maybe Maya had pushed too hard, asked too many questions, stepped too close to something sacred. But the following night, Coral still didn't come, nor the night after that. And by the 4th night, Maya felt herself unraveling. She wandered the library like a ghost, whispering Coral's name into the shadows, tracing her fingers along the spines of books they'd read together, hoping some part of Coral had lingered. All that remained was the scent of salt and a half-finished note inside a copy of The Tempest, written in Coral's looping, old-world script. Some storms are too deep to swim through. I would rather drown alone than pull you under. Maya didn't cry, not then. She simply closed the book, held it to her chest, and sat on the floor until the sun rose. But the ache inside her didn't fade. It grew sharper, more certain. She had fallen in love with someone impossible, and it no longer mattered if she understood how or why. Coral wasn't a dream. She was a choice. And Maya had already chosen her. On the 5th night, Coral appeared again. Maya found her in the reading room at exactly 12 minutes past midnight, standing barefoot before the stained glass window. Her hair was damp, and her expression unreadable. Maya didn't speak. She just crossed the room, slow and deliberate, and placed her hand gently on Coral's arm. "You left," she said softly. "I had to." "Why?" "Because I can't ask you to give up your world." "I won't. You don't belong under the sea." "And you don't belong only to midnight," Maya replied. Coral looked away, blinking fast. "If you stay in love with me, the curse will bend toward you. It's already started. You don't sleep. You hear the tide even here. That's how it begins." "And how does it end?" Love what you've seen so far and want to help me keep creating these awesome stories on this channel? Then subscribe and hit the bell. Your subscription supports the channel and makes sure you get more exciting stories. With your lungs full of salt and your memories washed away, Maya felt her throat tighten. Then let it. "Maya, I would rather drown in your world than survive in mine without you." Coral's lips parted like she might argue, but Maya leaned forward and kissed her, soft and certain, like she was sealing a promise neither of them could break. The kiss was unlike anything Maya had ever known. Not hot or desperate, but vast, like sinking into something ancient and boundless. Coral's hands trembled as they cupped Maya's face, and when they pulled apart, her eyes shimmered with unshed tears. "I have lived longer than I should have," she whispered, "and I have never wanted to be selfish. But if you ask me to stay, I would shatter the tide for you." Maya held her tightly. "I'm not asking you to stay. I'm asking you not to push me away." Coral nodded once. "Then I'll give you every midnight I have." From that night on, they were inseparable. Each evening, Maya arrived early, preparing the library like a sanctuary. She brought warm tea, wrapped Coral in blankets when she emerged soaked from the river, read to her under flickering lamps while Coral braided strands of Maya's hair with tiny pieces of sea glass. They danced once, barefoot between the poetry shelves. Coral sang to her in a language Maya didn't know, but somehow understood. They made love on a bed of old cushions and archived maps, and afterward, Coral wept softly into her shoulder. "You'll have to choose," she said. "Not tonight," Maya whispered, "but soon." And Maya knew she was right. The transformation had already begun. She could hold her breath longer. Her skin itched near salt water. Once, she dreamed of whales and woke with sand beneath her fingernails. The curse was watching, waiting, and yet Maya no longer feared it. She feared only the moment Coral might try to leave again. Near the end of the week, Coral hesitated at dawn. Instead of vanishing, she stood in the doorway, watching the horizon blush pink. "I used to hate the morning," she said. "It meant losing everything. But now it just means waiting to see you again." Maya reached for her hand. "Then don't go." Coral shook her head. "If I stay past the sun, I can't return. Not until the next full moon. And even then, I might not remember." "What if I came with you?" The question hung between them like mist. Coral looked at her, eyes wide. "You would give up your name, your body, your land." "Not for you," Maya said. "With you." Coral's breath hitched. "Then wait until the next moon. If your heart says the same by then, I'll meet you at the sea." And just like that, she was gone. Maya stared at the empty space where Coral had stood, her own heartbeat loud in her ears. One more cycle, one more decision, and the tide would carry her towards something she couldn't undo. The days felt longer now, stretched thin by anticipation and a restlessness Maya couldn't shake. The city moved around her with its usual noise and pattern. Sirens in the distance, coffee orders shouted in morning rushes, bus brakes hissing at corners, but everything seemed detached, as if the world had lost its color and Maya was simply passing through, a ghost caught between two tides. She returned to her apartment in the daylight, touching things that used to matter, her plants, her books, the photos on the fridge, and feeling them slip further from her. Her mother called, and she let it go to voicemail. Her friends texted, and she replied with vague emojis and excuses. None of them would understand. How could she explain that she was falling in love with someone who only existed when the moon reached its peak? Someone whose voice echoed with centuries and whose touch tasted of oceans she'd never seen? She had tried once. She sat across from her sister in a cafe and whispered fragments of the truth. That she had met someone. That it was strange. That it was serious. But her sister's brow furrowed with concern. "Do you even know her last name?" she asked. Maya smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "I know her soul." That's not enough. But it was. It had to be. The library became more than a workplace. It became the axis of her life. She moved like a creature of habit and ritual. She lit candles in corners Coral liked. She played soft music on an old record player. She wrapped scarves around the chairs where Coral rested, leaving them scented with lavender and clove. And every night, as midnight struck, Coral arrived, shimmering, barefoot, radiant with joy and a sadness she never voiced. Their time together grew more intimate, more unspoken. They needed fewer words. A glance became a promise. A breath became a vow. Sometimes, Coral would sing to her, songs in ancient dialects, lullabies that made Maya's bones ache with longing. Once, Coral kissed her with such depth that Maya forgot the name of the city she lived in. But still, the question lingered, always hovering just beneath the surface. What happens when the moon is full? Maya marked the calendar. 10 nights left. 9. 8. She tried to prepare. She read everything she could on oceanic magic, transformation spells, binding oaths. She found a tale about a woman who followed her lover into the sea and returned once every 100 years to whisper her name across the shore. Another about a girl who dove into a storm and never surfaced, but the coral reefs still sang her song. She dreamed of waves curling over her body, of gills forming along her ribs. She woke breathless, wet with seawater that shouldn't have been there. One night, Coral brought her something. A small box, carved from driftwood, wrapped in sea silk. "For when the decision is made," she said, placing it in Maya's hands. "Don't open it until then." Maya held it tightly. "What's inside?" Coral only smiled. "A part of me." They lay together that night, wrapped in silence and candlelight. Maya traced patterns across Coral's skin, counting the places where it shimmered faintly, where the illusion of full humanity slipped. She thought about the weight of lungs, the press of gravity, the ache of bones that weren't meant to bend with the current. "What will I become?" she asked quietly. "Something new," Coral said. "Not less. Not more. Just changed." "Will it hurt?" "Only at first." Maya exhaled. "I'm scared." Coral touched her face. "So am I." The next morning, Coral didn't wait for sunrise. She left early, pressing a kiss to Maya's palm. "I have to gather something," she said. "I'll be gone a few days." Maya sat up. "Where are you going?" "Deeper." "Will you come back?" Coral's eyes glistened. "Always." Then she vanished into the river, disappearing beneath the surface with a flick of silver. Maya sat there long after the sky turned blue. She carried the driftwood box everywhere. She didn't open it. Not yet. But she held it close, like a heartbeat. The countdown had begun. The box never left Maya's side. She slept with it under her pillow, held it in her lap while reading, pressed it against her chest when silence grew too heavy. She hadn't opened it, not yet, but some part of her felt it humming softly, like it knew its time was near. The nights without Coral were longer now, deeper. She counted them in heartbeats. 5 nights until the full moon. 4. 3. And then, just before midnight on the second night, Coral returned. Maya was shelving a stack of weathered atlases when she felt the shift in the air, colder, salter, charged like the sea before a storm. She turned, and Coral was there, drenched, shivering, barefoot on the marble floor. Her eyes were wilder than usual, her silver hair plastered to her shoulders. Maya ran to her without hesitation. "You're hurt." "No," Coral said, voice rough. "Just far from shore." Maya wrapped her in a blanket, dried her hair with trembling hands, kissed the salt from her cheeks. Coral clung to her like a wave, desperate not to recede. "They know," she whispered against Maya's neck. "Who?" "The ones who gave me the curse. The ones who bound me to the tide. They can feel the pull changing, feel you shifting." Maya swallowed hard. "Will they stop us?" "They'll try." "Then let them." Coral pulled back just enough to look her in the eyes. "You don't understand. They don't want freedom. They want obedience. If I break the curse, I become something they can't control. And if you join me, you become something they can't predict. I'm not afraid. You should be." Maya smiled faintly. "I've always done better in deep water." Coral laughed, a soft and broken sound, and they kissed again, fiercely. That night, their love felt different, more desperate, more present. They memorized each other with hands and breath, and the kind of hunger that came from knowing it could all be ripped away. Afterward, Coral traced Maya's spine with her fingers. "You still haven't opened it." Maya reached for the box. "Should I?" "Only when you're certain." "I think I already am." Coral held her closer. "Then wait just a little longer. Let the moon crown the tide. Let the choice come with the stars above and salt below." But Maya's world was already slipping. She had started making quiet goodbyes, clearing out her apartment, canceling subscriptions, donating clothes she knew she'd never wear again. She wrote letters to her mother and her sister, explaining as much as she dared. "I fell in love," she wrote. "And love changes you." But people noticed. Her coworker Thomas, who had covered a few late shifts for her, stopped her near the supply closet. "You look different," he said. "Lighter, but tired." "I haven't been sleeping much," she answered truthfully. "You've been at the river," he said suddenly. Maya froze. "What?" "I saw you. 3 nights ago. You walked in, fully dressed. You didn't come out. Not until almost dawn." She tried to think of something to say, but Thomas's expression darkened. "Is someone hurting you?" "No." "Then what is it?" "You're fading, Maya. You're glowing, but you're fading." She stepped back. "You wouldn't understand. Try me." "She's not from here." "Like out of town?" "Like out of this world." Thomas blinked. "You've lost it." "Maybe. But I've never been more sure of anything. You're giving everything up. I'm gaining something too. But at what cost?" Maya didn't answer. Because she didn't know yet. That night, Coral didn't come. And the next night either. Maya returned to the canal, waited by the rocks where Coral usually surfaced. Nothing. No ripple. No voice. Only silence. The air was heavier. The moon fuller. And when she returned to the library just before dawn, she found something waiting for her in the reading room, a single silver scale, glistening with faint light, pulsing like a heartbeat. Maya bent down to pick it up, and a voice echoed from behind the shelves. "You should not have touched her." Maya spun, but no one was there. Only the books, whispering as if moved by a current only they could feel. Her fingers tightened around the scale. Her heart raced. And she knew, in that instant, that Coral hadn't stayed away by choice. Something had taken her back. Maya didn't sleep. She couldn't. The silver scale pulsed in her hand like a wound, like a heartbeat torn from Coral herself, and every time she closed her eyes she saw Coral's face, her hair slicked with salt, her voice trembling with warnings Maya hadn't listened to soon enough. Something had taken her. Something ancient. She returned to the canal again and again, whispering Coral's name, stepping waist-deep into the water at dusk and again at dawn, but the river remained silent, unyielding, mocking. She stopped going to work. She stopped checking her phone. Her apartment filled with the smell of seawater, though she hadn't opened a window in days. On the 4th night of Coral's absence, Maya took the driftwood box and opened it. Inside was a single strand of Coral's hair, braided with something Maya didn't recognize. Kelp, maybe, or dried sea silk, and a stone, perfectly round, the color of the moon. When she touched it, it hummed against her skin. Visions came, flickers of coral bound beneath dark waves, her arms restrained by chains made of coral and bone, her mouth open in a silent scream as figures surrounded her, tall, cloaked, glowing with something wrong. Maya gasped and dropped the stone, but its energy remained, vibrating in her ribs. She understood now. The curse wasn't just a spell. It was a prison. Coral hadn't asked for it. It had been forced on her, sealed by a council of ancient beings who ruled the sea not with wisdom, but with fear. They allowed her to walk in human skin only under strict terms. To read. To remember. Never to belong. Never to love. And Maya's love had broken the rules. The transformation had begun early, the connection between them warping the curse, destabilizing the old bindings. They saw her as a threat now.
Coral was not gone.
She was being held. Maya couldn't breathe. The walls of her apartment felt too small, too dry, too dead. She ran out into the streets, into the night, toward the canal, toward the edge of everything. There, beneath the silver light of the nearing full moon, she whispered Coral's name again. Nothing. But this time, Maya didn't stop. She took the braided token from the box, tied it around her wrist, held the moonstone tight in her fist, and stepped fully into the river. The water was cold at first, then warm, then nothing at all. It pulled her downward.
She didn't resist.
Not this time. The world dissolved around her in a blur of bubbles and salt and stars. She didn't know how far she sank or how long she fell, only that when she opened her eyes again she was standing, somehow, at the bottom of the sea. Not swimming. Not drowning. Breathing. The magic clung to her skin, the air thick and dreamlike. All around her, ruins glowed with soft light, pillars and arches carved with runes older than time. And at the center, a temple of coral and bone, guarded by figures with no eyes, no mouths, only forms shaped from water and shadow. She stepped forward. They didn't stop her.
Not yet.
Inside the temple, she found Coral, chained as the vision had shown. Her silver hair floated around her face like silk, her eyes closed, lips moving silently in what could have been prayer or defiance. Maya fell to her knees beside her, reaching out. Coral's eyes opened. You shouldn't be here. I had to come. They'll see it as a declaration. Then let it be one. The water stirred. The temple groaned. One of the shadow guardians approached. The human has trespassed, it said, its voice like a tide crushing rock. She is not human, Coral whispered. Not anymore. The guardian tilted its head. You seek to complete the bond? I seek to free her, Maya said. Then you must offer everything. I already have. No, the voice replied. You must know the cost. Images filled the water around her, visions of the life she would lose. Her name, her shape, her memories of sunlight and family, and everything that once made her human. You will not return, it said. You will forget the language of air. Your skin will change. Your blood will turn to salt. Are you willing? Maya looked at Coral. Coral's eyes shimmered with pain. You don't have to do this. Yes, Maya said. I do. The guardian raised its hand. Then we must prepare you.
Now.
At the next full moon. The tide must be whole. The gate must open. Until then, you remain. With her? No, it said. You may leave this temple, but you may not touch her again until the vow is sealed. One more night, and then everything ends. Maya's heart twisted, but she nodded. As she turned to go, Coral called out to her, voice raw with emotion. Maya? Yes. I will wait for you. In every wave. Maya smiled through the tears. And I will find you. In every star. And then she was rising, through water and memory, through magic and darkness, until she broke the surface of the canal again, the moon above her nearly full, her hands empty, but her soul filled with fire. One night left. One final tide. And then everything would begin again, or end forever. The full moon rose like an omen, too bright, too watchful. Maya stood at the edge of the canal, the moonstone clutched in her palm, the sea silk braid wrapped tightly around her wrist, her chest tight with purpose and fear and something else, anticipation so raw it bordered on pain. She hadn't spoken to anyone in 2 days. The world above the surface had grown distant, dim. Her apartment was empty now, the walls bare, the last box of belongings left untouched by the door.
She didn't need them anymore.
Not where she was going. She had written final letters, burned old journals, deleted her digital life piece by piece. The weight of her past had become waterlogged. It would only drag her under. As she stood there, barefoot, trembling, the wind shifted behind her. Footsteps. She turned. Thomas. I knew I'd find you here, he said, out of breath. His eyes scanned her, full of worry. Maya, please. Whatever this is, it's not too late to stop. Yes, it is, she said softly. Because I'm not stopping. You don't understand what you're giving up.
No, Thomas.
You don't understand what I've found. A fantasy? A creature? A life, she said. A truth. A love I would destroy myself for, and still call it a miracle. This isn't you. It's more me than I've ever been. You're walking into something you can't undo. I don't want to undo it. I want to become it. His face broke with something between heartbreak and disbelief. She's not even human. Neither am I. Not anymore. She turned away. Go home. Maya, if you care about me, she whispered, let me go. He didn't follow her. The city lights faded behind her. She walked into the water. Waist deep. Chest deep. The moon above burned white. And then she felt it, the current beneath her shifting, coiling, pulling. She closed her eyes.
And Coral appeared.
Not in chains. Not in pain.
Just there. Whole.
Radiant. Her skin shimmered like stars. Her voice reached Maya without sound. You came. Always. Coral touched her face. You're sure? Yes. Then take my hand. Maya did. The water rose around them like a wall of light. They tried to keep us apart, Coral whispered. But they forgot the tide always returns. Maya smiled. And love always finds a way. Coral pulled her close. One more kiss as who you were. And they kissed, fierce and aching and infinite. The water ignited around them, not with fire but with memory, past and future colliding. The moon pulsed overhead. The ritual had begun. Maya's skin burned, then cooled. Her heartbeat slowed. Her breath became something deeper. The transformation was close. Coral held her tighter, but her expression changed. Something dark in her eyes. They're coming. Who? The ones who bound me. They know the vow is forming. They will try to break it. Let them come, Maya said, voice steel. I'm not afraid. And then the sea split open behind them. The sea did not roar, it screamed. Not with sound, but with pressure, with light, with a force that bent reality like glass under fire. Maya felt it before she saw them. The ones Coral had spoken of, the keepers of the curse, the judges of the ocean's oldest laws. They didn't walk or swim. They emerged, shapes shifting between shadow and coral, their bodies carved from current and bone, faces cloaked in masks of kelp and salt-encrusted stone. They rose in a circle around Maya and Coral, their presence collapsing the space between heartbeats. The vow is incomplete, one of them said, its voice neither male nor female, but deep and hollow, as if spoken from the bottom of the ocean floor. The sacrifice must be tested. Coral moved in front of Maya. She has chosen. You will not stop us. Love, another whispered, its voice rippling through the water like oil, is a fleeting thing. It bends. It breaks. Let us see if hers can survive the weight. And the trial began.
The sea around them changed.
The warmth of Coral's presence faded. Maya reached out and found herself alone, spinning in a void of cold salt and darkness. Her skin tingled. Her breath caught. She was no longer in the ocean. She was in a memory. Her old apartment. The scent of coffee. The hum of the fridge. A knock at the door. She opened it and found her sister standing there, eyes full of worry, love, forgiveness. "You can come back," her sister said. "It was just a dream, Maya. A story. Come back to us." Maya's throat burned. Her hands shook. But she looked down and saw the moonstone still tied to her wrist, glowing faintly. She closed her eyes. This isn't real. And the world shattered. Another vision came. Her mother. Her old bedroom. Her favorite book in her lap. The sunlight through the curtains. "You miss this," her mother said. "You miss yourself." But Maya knew better now. "I've only just found myself," she whispered, and the illusion broke like a wave. The sea returned. The judges watched. She resists. She remembers. She may yet be worthy. Coral reappeared beside her, face pale, eyes wide. "They're not done." Maya gripped her hand. "Neither am I." The water turned again, darker now, thick like ink. Pain lanced through Maya's spine. Her lungs constricted. Her legs felt like they were dissolving. She screamed, but no sound escaped. "You will become," a judge said. "But you will also lose. Your name, your face, your voice." Coral held her tighter. Let her speak with her soul. And Maya did. Not with words, but with everything she was. She projected memory, desire, loyalty. Every kiss, every look, every time she had waited by the window for Coral to appear. The sea shivered with her grief, her hope, her devotion. And the judges paused. One stepped forward, the tallest, its mask splitting open to reveal a face made of shifting light and shadow. "Then choose now," it said. "One final truth." And Coral stepped forward. Slowly, she shed the illusion that clung to her. Skin peeled away like mist, hair lengthened into fluid strands of current, her body elongated, delicate, regal, terrifying in its beauty. She was not human, not even close. And she was exquisite. Maya's heart did not falter. She stepped to her, touched her cheek, and smiled through tears. "I choose this. I choose you, in all your forms." Coral's breath hitched. Her hands trembled. The judges tilted their heads. "Then the vow may be sealed. But the final pain must be borne." The sea roared once more, and Maya felt her body begin to change, not slowly, not gently. Bones cracked, lungs twisted. Her heartbeat stopped and restarted in a new rhythm. The current pierced her skin like knives. But Coral's arms held her through every second of it. The light dimmed. Maya gasped. The transformation halted mid-process. One judge raised a hand. She resists still. There is one final tether anchoring her to the world above. Coral looked at Maya, frightened. "What is it?" "Something remains," the judge said. "A doubt. A fear. A name not yet surrendered." Maya blinked, dazed with pain. "What name?" "Yours," the judge said. "Speak it one last time, and let it go." Maya's lips parted. She closed her eyes. And then, Maya's lips parted, and the name she had worn all her life hovered at the edge of her tongue like a leaf trembling before the fall. It was the last thread, the last tether to the surface, to the air, to her mother's voice, to her childhood, to the memory of who she had been before Coral's eyes met hers across the library floor. She thought it once more, Maya, and then let it go. She didn't speak it aloud. She simply exhaled it, like breath leaving a dying fire, and the moment it faded, the sea opened around her like a great exhale. The judges lifted their arms. The tide surged. Coral gasped, her body glowing like the stars had poured themselves into her bones. The current wrapped around Maya, not to drown, but to welcome. Her skin shimmered silver, her legs dissolving into the long, graceful form of something no longer human. Her lungs stilled, then reopened with water. She did not suffocate.
She breathed. The pain vanished. The ache was gone.
She had become. Coral swam to her, a burst of silver and joy, her arms reaching, her eyes wide and unguarded. "You did it," she whispered, though no voice passed between them. Only understanding, flowing like currents between their hearts. Maya held her face. "We did it." The judges drifted back, their forms fading like fog, and in their place, light bloomed from the ocean floor, illuminating the temple ruins not with magic, but with freedom. Coral reached for Maya's hand. "Now you see me." "I always saw you," Maya replied, smiling through tears that were now part of the sea. They rose together, swimming like a single breath, no longer bound by time or surface or silence. They swam past reefs that sang when touched, past whales who bowed as they passed, past schools of glowing fish that followed them like a crown. The ocean bent around them, not as prison but as home. Maya had no need for clocks now. No more midnight deadlines, no more sunrises to fear. Time existed only in Coral's arms, in the press of her lips, in the way their hearts beat in a rhythm no longer tethered to the human world. Days, whatever days meant now, passed in wonder. They explored shipwrecks heavy with memory. Coral showed her hidden caves where ancient libraries rested beneath crystal ceilings, filled with scrolls bound in shells and star metal. Maya read to her there, her voice echoing through water like a song. They danced on ocean floors, slow and close, as sea anemones pulsed like lanterns. They made love beneath the ruins of forgotten cities, their bodies moving together like tides in sync. And every moment felt like a vow. The curse was not only broken, it was remade. Coral was no longer chained to the shore. She could rise when she chose, drift into human skin when the moon called her, but now she chose only Maya, only the deep. And Maya, though nameless above, had found the name she needed in Coral's touch, in the way the sea whispered to her, not as an intruder, but as a daughter. Sometimes they returned to the surface. Once, Coral brought her to the shore at dawn, where Maya stood with new legs and lungs, watching the waves kiss her feet. She could still return if she wished. The transformation had not closed the door, it had simply opened another. But she didn't need to stay. Her old life had been beautiful in fragments, but this was whole. "Do you miss it?" Coral asked. "The surface." Maya smiled and leaned into her, brushing a kiss to her temple.
"No.
"I miss nothing, because I have everything." Coral held her hand. "Forever. Forever." And beneath the light of a moon that no longer marked a curse but a promise, they dove back into the water together. Two souls made of salt and stars, no longer bound by anything but love. And the sea sang their story forever. Thank you so much for being here and for believing in this channel. If you feel in your heart